Hey guys, GWS here. Gonna do a little bit of a response to something here. Just because this guy, this Don Winslow, is pretty prominent. So I'm gonna give him my time of day and listen to this video with an open mind. I have not listened to the video, but from the few seconds I've heard, it's not going to be good for him. But I will do my due diligence. I will listen to the end. But, excuse me, you may not like what I have to say. So, we're going to play parts of this. I'm going to stop it when I have something to say, and then we'll just straight ball it from there. No editing, nothing. So, let's start with the video. If it'll start. There it goes.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue.
Everyone says that no one can talk to you.
And shoot somebody.
Everyone says nothing we show you won't.
Oh, okay, just a little bit of a note on that one. He was being playful with that one, during the campaign of 2016. So it's just a little bit of a disingenuous thing, like not even posting something in its proper context. At least say it's a joke, basically, or at least post the full context. Okay, moving on.
Matter.
I wouldn't even vote, okay?
They say video, pic.
Okay, so hang on, let me back up here, 1
No one
second.
can talk to you.
And shoot. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue.
Everyone says that no one can talk to you.
Okay, first of all, everyone says that no one can talk to you. Who's everyone? Clearly, it's not the people voting for Trump saying it. So, when you say everyone, I'd like a specific explanation if I ever get a response from the creator of who everyone entails, because it certainly doesn't mean literally everyone, right? There are a lot of people who support Donald Trump, so the first thing he's trying to do here is alienate. Like, you're the only one who supports Trump, and everybody is telling you. So, I'd like to know who this everyone he's talking about is.
And shoot somebody.
Everyone says nothing we show you will matter.
Same thing.
They say video, pictures, audio recordings. None of it matters.
When you start, they let you do it.
Yeah, we've all heard it. Yeah, just a little bit of that fast forwarding there. The thing about the disabilities in particular is incredibly out of context. Like, the thing they post where he mocked the disabled person, right, by waving his hands around. Like, if you look at Trump with other people, including Ted Cruz, he has used the same motion with the same tone of voice. So no, he was not making fun of a disability. There's plenty of video of other times where he has done that specific thing. Very, very disingenuous, very out of context. And of course, Access Hollywood. I hope he gets into the audio of that, but we'll continue from here.
But like millions of people, I keep thinking something will turn you around. I thought children in cages would...
Okay, so immediately the whole goal is to, quote, turn you around, right? As in, everybody this video's going to is a brick wall. Like, nothing will change them. As if it's your responsibility to preach to people rather than talk to them with an open mind, not just for their position, but for your own position. This video is coming off as incredibly condescending to right-wingers, as if you are above them, you are the open-minded intellectual, and they're just some stupid-ass brick wall of a person who is immovable, who is incapable of learning. But he's saying everybody says that, right? So I guess it's not completely fair to say that's his position, but basically the way this is coming across to me is like he's saying Everybody's saying these things about you, that you're an idiot, that you are obtuse-minded. You know, even from that narrative, it just doesn't look good. Like, like you're the one, you're going to actually try and relate as if you are going to be different than any other person. All these other people who have insulted you, right? You've been insulted this whole presidency, okay? But they don't understand you. And so, okay, let's continue.
Do it. I thought Russian bounties on U.S. soldiers would do it.
Okay, that first of all, that's just an allegation from the same intelligence communities that screwed up the Iraq War, right? Like, we never have evidence of any of this. And what's interesting about this whole thing is you had organizations like WikiLeaks, you had organizations, and left-wingers during the Bush years who were against this stuff. Like, you had Chelsea Manning, an American hero who exposed the lies told by these agencies, by the Bush administration, right? And it took heroes like that. Okay, and now all of a sudden these skeptical people who were the anti-Bushes, I was with them, by the way, because I voted for Obama. I was with the left wing on this anti-war stuff because it was nonsense. It was a nonsense war, and I still believe it was a nonsense war. Right? And now these same intelligence agencies are supposed to be telling us, oh, Assad, use chemical weapons, or, they put bounties on U.S. soldiers. And, I mean, it's possibly true, but it's like to hang your hat completely on just something the intelligence community says. Even if you were to blame Trump, which, I got news for the creator of this video, is like when you're talking about geopolitics, you can't just use this emotional stuff because we've been involved with other countries, they've been involved, right? The whole goal is to get in a better, less heated situation with the powers of the world, and that includes, yes, with Russia. That's why we're getting peace with the Taliban. That's why we're getting peace in the Middle East. That's why we're getting peace deals signed. Right? It's about de-escalating. It's not about, like, using a few people who died as ammunition for your politically motivated desires for aggression or war or whatever it is people want with Russia. Okay, let's continue.
I thought 180,000 dead from a virus that could have been stopped would do it.
Could have been stopped? See, this is... I guess I should listen to more of the video, but I have a feeling, being that this is 2 minutes and 19 seconds long, I don't think a lot of this is going to be substantiated. But I'll keep an open mind in case it is. But if you look at the dead from the coronavirus, first of all, the coronavirus did not come from the United States. Like, you can get the false impression from this. The coronavirus came from China, right? It went from China to Hong Kong, then to South Korea and Japan. I forgot which order that was, but it went to those countries first, and then it went to Europe, and it spread all over Europe, all over Italy, all over Austria, Central Europe, and then it pretty much spread through the whole thing. Excuse me. And if you look at the United States during this whole time, keep in mind the United States is either one of the most visited, if not the most visited country on Earth, with many people who travel abroad to countries like China, to countries like Japan, and to Europe, We went through the whole month of February. I can pull this up, actually. Let me do this real quick. Okay, so we'll go to Worldometer. This is what I look at. You may look at, like, Johns Hopkins. They have, I think, their own interface. But this is just the one I've been using. It's the one I'm most comfortable. But they all come from the same place because this gets data from Johns Hopkins. So we're going to look at U.S. coronavirus cases, and I'm going to see if I can get it by month. I hope I can. Well, I guess I could kind of do it from this right here. Let's see if it'll let me zoom in on it. Okay, we'll go ahead and zoom in on this. But yeah, if you look at the entire month of February, this is the United States, by the way, daily new cases in the United States. Okay, while you had countries in Europe being ravaged, you had China being ravaged. There were so few cases in the United States, it did not even register on this scale. And I wish I could give specifics here. What if I do this? I don't know what this does, but I can do 3-day moving averages. Let's try this. Because then I can actually kind of scroll through data. Okay, here we go. We'll do this right here. Okay, we'll go. Let's do the 7-day instead of the 3-day. That'll give us a little bit more of an indicator. If that'll give us, yeah, here we go. Okay, so if you go through, the data starts on February 16th, and we had a moving average of 0. So while Europe was being ravaged with thousands and thousands of cases, and I'll go to, no, I'm not going to go to Europe because we know what happened in Europe, but I might show it anyhow. Like if you look at the 7-day moving average, look at this. March the 3rd, we were having 10 cases a day on average. Almost nothing. Right? Almost no cases per day. And then even through early March, we were at under 100 cases per day. So while China was ravaged, while Europe was ravaged, while Southeast Asia was ravaged, the United States basically had over a month, right? Like a month, probably closer to a month and a half without any, with our cases below 100. So what did Trump do between the January 20s, when the virus first emerged, period, and March? Immediately, we started quarantining people. Immediately. Like that. Started quarantining people from China. Started quarantining people from South Korea. And then we immediately added Italy to the list once they started getting out of control. Let's make sure my recording's still going. It is. But immediately, just like that, we did those things, right? In late February, I believe it was, we did the coronavirus task force. Before we even had 100 cases a day. Before we had 100 cases a day, we were doing the task force. And then within basically 2 months, let me pull this up too. I got some bookmarks for this. As you can see, I've been doing a lot of research on this. Here's some COVID testing numbers. This is Johns Hopkins, right? Okay, this is the testing rate. Like, this is April, we didn't have near the testing. This is the daily testing. And we were having, like, by April, we were over 100,000 tests per day. Right? That's basically a month after we even had, like, over 100 cases. A month out, we were already at 100,000. The United States is a huge country, right? 330 million people. It takes a while to test everybody. But going from that huge going to that huge amount while we are giving resources to other countries to help deal with the coronavirus. It's unreal what's been done. Right? Let me see if I can get back to this. This is another one of those. Let's see. Okay, yeah, here we go. Back to daily cases, right? So, we started getting huge numbers of testing. Not only did we get the testing, but we developed the improved testing. We got Operation Warp Speed. We had daily press briefings from the administration and from various experts, right? So if you look at the actions, if you just take away the moronic statements, and yes, he has made some dumb statements, but if you look at the actions of his administration, of his various bureaucracies, they've done a pretty good job, right? And so there's a difference in philosophy here, right? That's what this boils down to. Because when they say this could be prevented, the coronavirus epidemic, what they're really trying to say is we should have a federal strategy to deal with the coronavirus. But think of how nonsensical that is. Just think of it, right? Okay, so coronavirus first hit especially hard in New York. New York had a ton of cases all at once and a ton of deaths, and they went through their curve super fast, right? So for an epidemic, you have what's called a logistic curve, right? You have, the initial period where the rates are low by comparison. Then you have the exponential increase, and then you have the sigmoid decline, which is at the upper end of that curve. And that's where New York ended up at the latter part of that before some states even started their curve. So, bottom line is TLDR, every state is at a different place on the curve. Not only that, but every state has different demographics. Every state has different cities. Every state has different logistical challenges. Every state has a different mix of medical facilities. Every state has different ages of people. Some states people travel to a lot more. Some states people barely travel at all. Right? You got different parts of the states, different counties. You got so many different complicating factors that implementing a federal system to deal with states that have many different issues is problematic. So what was done? Well, it wasn't like nothing was done at the federal level. What was done at the federal level was to provide a set of basic guidelines for slowing the spread. That is social distance, wear masks, no large gatherings. There's all these guidelines that the CDC put out there, and they were just meant as just kind of a rough skeleton for states to work around, and they worked on improving our national stockpiles. Both of those things Trump did, and he did well. And so to say the 180,000 deaths is on Trump is just ludicrous. That's just ludicrous. You're not going to stop a pandemic like this. And not to mention, if you want to bring up other countries, how they're dealing with it, this pandemic is not over. People compare to other countries, it's not over in almost any country, and it's not for sure over in any. Even in New Zealand, where they say they haven't had community transmission, they're still getting new cases. It's just they're not reporting community transmission, but there's still cases there. But even if you were to say it's done in New Zealand, The reality is, like, unless every country can reduce the numbers to zero, which nobody has, this virus isn't over. Like, there's going to be second waves in Europe. There's going to be second waves in other parts of the United States. There's going to be a second wave in Canada. And yes, unless China is actively covering it up, which we all know how China covers up pandemics. Their data cannot be trusted. Right? China will have a second wave too. Everyone is going to have a second wave because unless you get a vaccine out, it's going to be, well, either the vaccine out or you reduce cases to zero. The pandemic is just going to keep coming until enough people get it where it just has nobody else to spread to, i.e. herd immunity. And even if you look at all of that, the United States is actually doing pretty good compared to other countries. Like, it's not doing better, but it's not doing worse either. It's doing, like, everyone points to deaths per million, us being number 10. Again, for the fact that, you know, how big this country is, how diverse it is, how many people come here from other countries, just being 10th is remarkable. But in addition, if you look at the case fatality rate, we're pretty, we're like at the bottom third of case fatalities. Not many people in the United States die from this, compared to places in Europe where the case fatality rate's extremely high. And that's the measure, because the case fatality rate shows how well and how disciplined healthcare workers are at treating the virus, how disciplined we are at protecting those most vulnerable to the virus, because 50% of people who die from corona are above the age of 78. And it's those things that will reduce the case fatality rate. And that's the thing that needs to be the focus. You could do things to slow the spread. There's an argument for it. But ultimately, it's going to come down to case fatality. Because all any place is doing with lockdowns is delaying the inevitable. Because it's going to come back, and in fact in Europe, it's already coming back. It is already coming back in places like France. Let's actually look and see. Let me zoom out of this. Let's go to new daily cases. Because I know it was coming back. Yeah, see? This is what I'm talking about right here. You got it coming back in France. 5,000 cases today. If you look at yesterday, Spain didn't report any for some reason. But, that's weird. No cases reported in Spain. I guess they don't report on the weekends. I don't know. But, yeah, the UK's still getting 1,000 cases. That's nothing to sneeze at. France had... Oh, because I'm not sorting by that. Okay, yeah, France had 5,000 yesterday. Russia's still getting quite a bit. You know, Iran is... Let's see, Italy's back up to 1,500. UK over 1,000 still. So there's still places in Europe that are getting plenty of cases. Like Germany still over... You know, like, this is not done anywhere. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay? Now let's move on from this. I think I've kind of made my point.
I was wrong. So maybe it's not that you don't hear us. Maybe it's just that you don't care. We're libtards. We're fake news. But we live in the same neighborhoods. We walk the same streets and our kids go to the same schools. Let's just deal with some facts. Mexico never paid for that wall. It was a lie.
Yeah, but was the wall itself a lie? First of all, Mexico is definitely contributing through their increase of border protection and their the USMCA. Yeah, it's true. They didn't directly pay for the wall. So in that sense, you can say that part of it's a broken promise. But the wall is being built, and they are contributing to our border security for the first time. And keep in mind, Trump got that done. No other president could get that done. Trump actually got that done through them. So let's move on from that.
Trump never delivered a medical care plan to replace Obamacare.
But he did repeal the mandate. And that's basically what Republicans were looking for. Like, Obamacare's basically gutted. But if you look at the medical inflation, the things that were supposed to be fixed from a replacement, you got prescription and medical care. It hasn't gone down, but it's stabilized. It's about at the level of inflation, and I think that's even true for prescription drugs. I know if you look at medical care CPI, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, yeah, it's stabilized. So bottom line is, the thing we did not like about Obamacare was that mandate. And so to just skirt around it like Trump has basically done nothing, and I'll agree, he has not done enough about healthcare, because I would like to see a public option. I think most people would like to see a public option. Even a lot of Republicans would like to see it. But let's continue on.
It was a lie. Trump promised to release his tax returns. That was 4 years ago. Just another lie.
Yeah, I'd like to see his tax returns. I agree with that. It's not a deal breaker, but would I like to see them? Yeah. Would I like to see somebody go after him for those? I don't think it'd be such a bad thing.
How many times does a person have to lie to you before you stop listening to them? 17 U.S. intelligence agencies said Russia interfered with the 2016 election.
And all of the media and all the people said, including Hillary, that Trump was a Russian puppet, that Putin was Trump's Trump was Putin's puppet. And what was that? That was absolutely nothing. That was a sham of a political investigation, and it was proven that it was a sham through all the people, through the exposure of the FBI by the IG. Like 19 egregious errors when getting the FISA report. On just Carter Page, mind you. Just Carter Page. And then you had the whole Michael Flynn stuff. And then you had the stuff coming out about, memos to spy on Donald Trump's campaign. Right? And of course, we've already went through the intelligence agencies. But, it's like I said, the special focus on Russia, when there's a lot of nations that have tried to interfere with us, and we've tried to interfere with a lot of other nations. You deal with that as a matter of diplomacy. And I think that's been done quite well.
That happened. He holds the Bible in his hands while burning every verse in it.
I'd say personally, yeah, it's true. Trump's a piece of shit. Doesn't make him a bad president, though.
Trump tells you that the press are fake news, an enemy of the people's.
Because they kind of are at this point. Like, and I know that's an extreme statement, but if you look at the narrative bias in the press, a lot of people try to say conservatives have, a fact bias or, a problem with facts, and they do. But what people don't understand is that everything is narrative. So yes, you could get a fact wrong, you could get a statistic wrong, but you could still be right on the narrative, right on the issue, and right on the specific problem, even if you're not exact on the numbers. But when you're talking about a narrative bias, basically, like, that's what you see. The media decides what you see. So the media could be completely factual in their reporting, but dead wrong because they omit things, they spin things, they ask questions in a subtly loaded manner. They present imagery to put a specific thing in your head. There's a lot of things the media does that are against the American people, and that points the direction away from their favoritism of the establishment. I'm actually writing a book based on this. It's called Concentric Illusions and the Pillars We Can Rely On. And one thing that I highlight in this book that's going to be coming out in a non-determined amount of time is this whole narrative bias, controlling what you see and how you see it, and presenting it as a comprehensive image of the world or of the specific thing they're showing you, when you can't question it and you can't look for something different because you're never shown anything different. And today we are losing our ability, because of cancel culture, to see things from other points of view. And when that happens, when all of the skeptics, all the people from all sides other than the established media, when all those people are gone, you're never going to be able to see it. Just like when there were 3 channels on cable and you could not see anything other than what the media portrayed. You had things like Operation Mockingbird, which controlled the media, basically, from the CIA. They had specific media personalities in their pockets, and they didn't control people by lying to them. Again, it was about narrative. It's about what you show. Because that's the way people see the world, is through the eyes of the people showing them. Most people aren't going to travel to Syria or Russia or the White House or anywhere else to see what's happening. Like, people have to view it through the eyes or through the camera lens of somebody else. And that's where the media is letting people down, because they are trying to take this president down. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Trump supporter, although I am a Trump supporter, but you could see that they see Trump as a chaotic entity that they cannot control. And because of that, you have seen almost entirely negative media about Trump. So let's continue on.
So you won't believe anything they say. But you know you can go to YouTube and watch a raw video for yourself. Or is YouTube part of the deep state? What happened to the Republican Party? Ronald Reagan must be rolling over in his grave.
So you talk about Trump, but then you bring up Ronald Reagan. There's a lot of Republicans that like Ronald Reagan, and so my views aren't going to be representative of them. But if you look at Ronald Reagan, he wasn't a particularly great president for a lot of people, especially for minorities, for many groups of people. Yes, he did bring down communism, but if you look at Ronald Reagan around the world, he was an authoritarian maniac, supporting dictators, basically selling drugs. His CIA was selling drugs in our neighborhoods because we were making deals with Latin American drug lord dictators. So, no, not a huge fan of Reagan. So, Ronald Reagan rolling in his grave, it's not something I care much about.
It's not America. And scaring the hell out of you every day is not leadership.
That is a hilarious line right there. That has to take the cake for one of the biggest points of irony. You think the Republican Party's trying to scare the hell out of people? Yeah, the Republican Party has used fear. Actually, they've used a lot more fear in the past. If you look at George W. Bush after 9/11, see, unlike, I don't know who made this video. Let's look at his description here. Okay, number one best-selling author of The Cartel, The Force, The Border, The Savages, of 3 New York Times Critics' Best Choice Books of the Year, right? So, okay, this person should be old enough to know better then, right? You remember after 2001, after 9/11, we had such fanatical patriotism that I've never seen it. I'll never forget going to the Walmart where I lived at the time. I was in college at the time. I'll never forget all the patriotic stuff I saw there, right? All the American, USA, USA. George Bush's rating shot up, I believe it was close to 90%. I think it was over 80, in fact. Right? And so, based on that, this is as fanatic as it gets, that kind of approval rating. So what was done with that? Well, our fears were played to sell us on a series of unconstitutional acts that nearly broke this country apart, nearly shredded the Constitution. The Patriot Act, suspension of habeas corpus. So if you want to know what playing on fear is like, that is playing on fear. And basically, Trump's message is not fear. It's never been fear. You could say all the Muslims and all the immigrants and all that. That's not really, the terrorism thing is fear, but it's a lot more minor than the George W. Bush fear. And a lot of Republicans would even support fighting terrorism, right? But more importantly, Trump's message is about optimism, about bringing jobs back, about protecting our workers, keeping the jobs here, about growing this economy back to what it was, back to a producing economy, bringing supply chains back to the United States of medicine, all that. It's a lot more optimism than fear. And in fact, the whole Trump hat, make America great again, that is not a fearful message. That's saying, we've gone down and we're going back up. It's not vote for the other side. If you vote for the other side, you will get destroyed. Right? That's what the Democrats are preaching. Like, a vote for Trump is a vote for more deaths from coronavirus, which is more fear-mongering than anything, if you want to be honest. Fear-mongering about coronavirus, fear-mongering about climate change, fear-mongering about, neo-Nazis, fear-mongering about Russia. Like, there is a lot of fear-mongering on the left. And so acting like there's some kind of optimistic message waiting on the other side, too, is just ridiculous.
It's just marketing. On November 3rd, you can end the chaos. You can tell your friends and family that you voted for Trump, even when you voted for Joe Biden.
Thanks for your service.
No one will ever know. Think about that.
Right, so what you're basically saying is be afraid of the chaos, but you can get out of the chaos. That is just a slap in the face of what you just said before. That is just a slap in the face. You talk about fear-mongering, and then in the very next sentence you say, you could end the chaos. All this stuff, all these Trump hats, it's just marketing. He's playing off of your fears, but you can vote away the chaos. Because if you vote for Trump, there will be chaos. Like, that is the most fearful message you could give. You think that's gonna persuade anybody? Seriously, son? Seriously? Seriously? I'm almost beginning to wonder if this wasn't a waste of my time, because to be honest, this played more like a Joe Biden fear-mongering commercial than it did trying to persuade anybody. You've literally made no persuasive arguments. Yeah, you said some things that were true. There's some things not to like about Trump. I think any of us who support Trump will say there are some issues with his personality. But here's the thing. When you're getting hired for a job on your CV, because I'm sure you've applied for a job, have you ever put, I'm a really nice guy on your CV? Ever? No. Because nobody cares. People have to get things done. That's what a president is. A president is somebody who gets things done. So, yeah, there's some character things that could put somebody over the edge. But other than being an asshole, Trump hasn't really hit any of those. Like, there's no evidence that he raped anybody. No evidence that he's killed anybody. There's no evidence that he's ripped people off of millions and millions of dollars, although he has screwed small businesses over. But, yeah. And I guess that's just the point. Let me see if there's anything else here. Yeah, vote for Joe Biden. As you think that you've made a persuasive message. See, and I guess that there is one other thing to point out that I kind of wanted to. I want to do it more toward the beginning, but actually it is more appropriate to bring it up now. If you look at Donald Trump's black support, and I think this is where this video is coming from. Donald Trump has a 25% approval rating among blacks. Just think about that for a second. Now, people may be thinking, okay, this is horrible. This is horrible. But if you look at the share of the vote that the average Republican gets from black voters, let me just give you an example. Ronald Reagan in 1984 won 9% of the black vote. He won 49 states that year. 49 of the 50 states. He only lost Minnesota and he lost D.C. He only lost Minnesota and D.C. And so that is somebody doing super well. In 2016, Trump, I believe it was, won 8% of the black vote. And Obama got over 95% in 2008 and 2012. And I think in 2012 he got closer to 97%. So think about that. You got Trump, who could get 25% of the black vote. You understand how insane that is when he could basically nearly triple what the typical Republican presidential candidate gets among blacks? And so what I think where this video is coming from is they see what's happening with the black vote. So what they're trying to do here, and you even heard this in 2016 a little bit from Hillary, but you're really seeing it now, is they're trying to make inroads into the white vote. And you watch it. You watch what happens. If Donald Trump wins the election and he gets anywhere near the 25% that say they approve of him, you're going to start seeing a lot less of this diversity agenda. And I'm almost worried about that we're going to return to a point where Democrats who control these inner cities are going to start really closing in the walls on the black communities, trying to extort them again. You know, and I worry about that because this video right here, it's basically trying to appeal to white morality. Because that's who this is targeting. In fact, I don't think there's there are some black people shown in this, but if you look at it, it's a lot of it's a lot of Trump, first of all. But you know, they're trying to appeal to whites, probably more working class whites. But anyhow, I think I've given this a little bit too much of my time. I'm going to post this on Twitter and on my Discord. But in terms of this open letter, it is an absolute insult to right-wingers. I'm not even much of a right-winger, to be honest. I'm actually more toward the center. But I'll tell you this. I support Trump. Most of my family supports Trump. And again, I voted for Obama in 2008. And I voted for Ian Kirkpatrick in 2016. So, I voted for a lot of Democrats in my life. I supported John Kerry in 2004, too. I've supported and voted with for a lot of Democrats in my life. And this, to me, is an insult. It is an insult, demeaning of Republicans, right-wingers, and Trump supporters. And the maker of this video should, I'm not going to say take it down because that's obviously not going to happen. But, you know, you need to take a little bit of a look at yourself as a New Yorker and understand what you are. You are a New Yorker. Well, New York Times bestseller. Like, I don't know if you're from New York. But, you know, you certainly come off as a New Yorker. Especially with that look. But, anyhow, point is, there's no minds being changed with this. Hasn't changed my mind. You haven't presented any facts. You've presented the same nonsense. The same exact nonsense that has come from the media over and over. So I guess my one question is this. What on earth made you think, by repeating non-stop media talking points that we've heard millions of times, over and over and over again, what made you think that was going to change anybody? You have presented nothing new. Nothing. Literally nothing. Thanks for listening. God bless.